Hey guys, what's going on? It's Supersonic Duck. It's been ages and ages, and I've been meaning to record videos, but I just haven't gotten around to it. A new ban list just dropped, and this is actually not a deck profile for the new ban list. I will be putting up another one. I just wanted to showcase my Yubel deck that I was using, taking to locals for the previous ban list that just passed. So this deck was focused around using Super Poly a lot to summon the Loving Defender forever. I love the arc on this card. It's actually one of my favorite cards. It's one of the most fun things to do is just to wipe an opponent's board with the Super Poly and go into her. So we'll go ahead and get straight into the deck profile. So this is more or less a pure Yubel deck with a little bit of an Unchained engine. So 3 copies of Spirit of Yubel. I maxed out on Spirit of Yubel because I wanted to see as many copies of Yubel as possible for Super Poly to make sure I had those Super Poly targets. Also, I wasn't playing any additional engines, so I had more room for more Yubel engine. And on top of that as well, this is just a good defensive card, a good extender. Yeah, pretty much just wanted to see as many as possible. I actually did play the Ultimate Nightmare alongside the one Terror Incarnate and the one Yubel. So for ages I didn't play this guy, and honestly it was okay. Like, you don't really need the Ultimate Nightmare. All you need is Yubel and Yubel Terror Incarnate. But I liked the Ultimate Nightmare because he helped me play through further in my combos. And when I was learning the deck and making misplays, having that extra summon to go into off of Terror Incarnate actually did come in quite handy. And again, you could end on this guy as well as the rest of your combos, and then set a Super Poly and use him as the Super Poly target as well. So moving on, I play 3 copies of Samsara D Lotus, or Monkey D Lotus as I like to call him, and a 1-for-1 as well, as essentially a 4th copy of this card. It's one of your main starters, just the best card in the deck. Also Monster Negate as well. 3 copies of Gruesome Grave Squirmer. I had more room for the original Yubel engine, since this was more of a pure Yubel deck. I often did find myself siding out one of these guys and just having 2 of them in the main deck, and I thought that was fine as well. Yeah, just having more copies of them helps you, go into the Ultimate Nightmare a bit more, being able to special summon him down and pop your Terror Incarnate. 3 copies of Nightmare Throne, again, 1 card combo, one of the best 1 card combos in the deck, and a Terraforming as well. Next up, we got 3 copies of Nightmare Pain. So Nightmare Pain, your main way of dealing damage, is also a really great searching card. Basically it causes your opponent to take battle damage. It doesn't do burn damage. The other Yubel monsters do burn damage, but this actually causes your opponent to take battle damage, it's interesting, the rulings of this deck. But anyway, we won't go into that. But the reason why I played multiple copies of this, some people will only play 1 if they really want to fit in other engines and also non-engine stuff, and that's respectable. I probably would just go down to 2 if I was to cut any number of these. But and one of the reasons for that, and I'm quite happy with 3 copies of Nightmare Pain in my deck. My locals played a lot of back row removal and a lot of runics, which were banishing cards from the top of my deck. So if I got my 1 copy of Nightmare Pain banished off the top of my deck, like, that was it. I'm screwed. So having multiple copies of this card did very much come in handy. And that also reminds me, having the 3 Spirit of Yubel was very, very handy for when I was able, just having an extra Spirit of Yubel in deck to pop off a Phantom of Yubel to be able to summon Yubel out onto the field as well. Also, Mature Chronicle, having the extra copy of Nightmare Pain. If I drew into Nightmare Pain, instead of searching Nightmare Pain in my combos, I could search Mature Chronicle, and that would help extend my combos even further. And this is just a great card for its additional effects, being able to search Super Poly. It's got good utility. It's a bit slow, but like I said, it's just an extra nice little thing. Usually you don't want to draw into it. Kind of sucks to draw into sometimes, but it's not the end of the world if you draw into it either. 1 copy of Eternal Favorite as an additional Super Poly target, and also that revival effect did come in handy quite a bit as well. For the Gates engine, I played the 1 copy of the Opening of the Spirit Gates that you could play in the last format. Now it's back up to 3, which is really good. And 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. Yeah, just to be able to see that Opening of the Spirit Gates as much as possible. And also, furthermore, with the Dark Beckoning Beast, you could go into the number 65 Gin Buster, have an additional effect negate to play through Nibiru, or end on an effect negate as well. For the Unchained engine, one of the things I love about the Unchained engine, it only requires 2 slots in the main deck. I played 1 copy of Sharvara and 1 copy of Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. Now, a lot of people played Escape of the Unchained, and that is honestly a very good card, and in many ways one of the better cards in the Unchained engine. But if you want to play Escape of the Unchained, you really want to play 2 copies of Unchained Soul Order of Yama, and I only made space for 1 in the extra deck. So because of that, I went up with the Abominable Chamber just to have follow-up and to be able to revive your Unchained Soul of Rage on another turn or what have you. Next up, 3 copies of Super Poly. This is kind of engine, but also kind of non-engine at the same time. And this is just one of the main offensive cards. I played this deck as a kind of a going first deck, main turn 1, but then often sided into going second. And this, this is definitely more of a going second card, but I think in this particular deck, it's actually great going first, because if you end on your first board with a Yubel monster, set Super Poly, you have an additional interruption to be able to go into the Loving Defender forever as well. So I actually played this card in a going first kind of way, even though it's great going second as well. It's very versatile that way. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, speaking of cards that are great going first and second in perm. And 3 copies of Effect Fader, moving on to the non-engine stuff now as well. And then 3 copies of Ash Blossom. And then lastly, 1 Call by the Grave to be able to play through, some hand traps. Onto the extra deck. So for the extra deck, I played 2 copies of Yubel the Loving Defender Forever. Usually I only went into 1 per game, so I did at times cut this card down to 1, and it was fine. But, it's nice to have the second copy. 2 copies of Phantom of Yubel, mainly because I only had 2. I did actually get my 3rd copy, but just before the ban list came out. Typical. 1 copy of Muckraker from the Underworld. Moving on to Link monsters now. So, Muckraker is just a great monster. Again, helping you go into the Loving Defender Forever, being able to, revive a Yubel monster, so you can use it as a Super Poly target, and just being able to, with her protection effect, just really good. And also just being able to extend further with her revival effect. For the Unchained engine, I played 1 copy of Unchained Soul Lord of Yama, 1 copy of Unchained Soul of Rage, and 1 copy of Unchained Soul of Anguish. So Rage, with Rage, I would make Nightmare Unicorn, because I didn't have access to SP Little Knight for most of the format. So this was the poor man's SP Little Knight that I was playing. And then with Anguish, I made access code Talker on my turn to be able to just, link off one of my opponent's monsters and then pop an additional card and have a 5300 beat stick to swing directly into. For the Xyz monsters, I played 1 copy of Gin Buster. He's an effect negate, helps you play through Nibiru and other hand traps, and you make him with the Dark Beckoning Beasts. 1 copy of Varudras, the Final Bringer of the End Times. This is an amazing card in a win condition in of itself. Usually I would make him with a Yubel and a Spirit of Yubel. So really, really good card. And actually the trap card Eternal Favorite was very, very handy for being able to bring out a second level 10 monster to go into him. And for the rest of the extra deck, I played some additional Super Poly targets in the form of Predicant Dragostapelia, a Garura, and a Mud Dragon of the Swamp. For the side deck, I played 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 3 copies of Nibiru, just additional non-engine stuff, 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone for back row decks, 3 copies of Dark Rule and Amor if I was going second, 2 copies of Crossout Designator as well if I noticed my opponent was playing a lot of hand traps, and also 1 Mulcharmic Perulia. I pulled this card in the booster pack, and if I noticed my opponent playing this against me, I would slide this in with the Crossout Designators. And so guys, that rounds off this deck profile. I'm going to update this deck for the new format and make a deck profile of that, and I'll also put up some combo videos for this deck as well in another video in the future. So thanks guys for watching, and see you in the next video.